And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now all this week we've been telling you it's all about Mo Fire, the critically acclaimed, award-winning musical that's just come back from a very successful trip to New York, and it's playing to packed audiences right here at the Go Down Theater in Industrial Area. Written by Jeff Koinange, directed by the man on the bench today. He has a history in theater, more than 4 decades. First graced this stage when he was a mere 10 years old. And in 1966, when I was born, he was a star already. Can you imagine? He's been in this business a while, and he was chosen to direct this musical, which he has done with aplomb, I guess. That's the only word I can think of. John E. Sibi-Okumu, a household name. I don't know what the E stands for. Maybe we'll find out. John.
Well, Jeff, thanks for making me feel really old. It's nice to feel old.
Experience, John, experience.
Yeah.
And John, you're 55, right? And you look wonderful, by the way.
Thank you.
And you've been in this business longer than a lot of people we know, and successfully.
Right.
They still call you up, John, which is a good sign. And when Eric called you to direct Mo Fire, what were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Eric is a friend, and when friends come calling, one tends to respond and say yes, like when Jeff Koinange says, come and be on the bench. Who am I to say no? And we go back a long way, don't we, Jeff?
Yes, indeed.
It was a challenge. I think, as you say, it gets to a stage we don't want to be into eternal youth. I am the age that I am. I was born in July 1954. And there comes a stage in one's life where you want to give back. I'm not competing, with the youngsters out there who are in their 25, 30s, starting out as people in the media, but I just want them to know that, and they must know that there are people who came before. As I've said before, we all walk on the shoulders of giants.
Oh, wow.
I'm not pretending to be a giant, but I've certainly got shoulders to walk on.
Yeah, and you've got other people on your shoulders, John, so you're a giant in your own way.
Yes, exactly.
But you have been used to we have been used to seeing you on the stage actually acting. But you directed this one, John.
Right. This is all the notion of progression. My reputation started off in primary school plays and everything else, but unlike most people, I stayed with it. Yeah. So I'm not sort of like when I was at school, I was Julius Caesar, but now I've given up. I stayed with it. And there were a lot of mentors, the whole idea of mentors, teachers who came into my life, the James Falkland of the Phoenix Players, who first sort of came and saw me as a youngster in at Lenana School where I was, and said we're doing wonderful things. Steve Mwanesi was there at the time, and we were sort of Uncle James's brown-eyed boys, and started acting, as I say, 1973. I was sort of a sensation by being a black person kissing a white girl on stage as Romeo. Now that was news in the 73s.
I can imagine.
And some people who took offense to that. So
Sure.
it moved, socially we've moved ahead.
Indeed.
But we're talking about directing More Fire. A great challenge and a great privilege. As I said on the opening night, the time had come when I felt that it was time for me to be called up, not some person belonging to some theatre company in the UK coming to guide us along and teach us a bit more about what can be done. Yeah. We're just saying we've put in our time, so we know something about the mechanics of the stage. Yeah. I hadn't quite particularly directed a musical before. I'd directed plays with musical ingredients. So there's always the idea of a challenge. And the idea of directing a musical was dealing in territory that I knew. I'm not a musician, but the idea of how do you tell a story with music, and how do you tell a story with a message through music?
Yeah.
So, yes, if you want me to keep on talking, or you want to say something else? I might just go on
I know.
interminably, and then my time will be up, but
But John, bottom line, it was a learning curve for you, even, at this stage in your career.
Everything, that's why one does it. Everything has to be a learning curve, otherwise there's no excitement. There are energy levels. A director, when you come in, There's the producer who's given you lots and lots of money. And the director in this is doing something totally different. As an actor, you take the responsibility for your own little role and the generosity that you give to other actors on stage. As a director, it's like, I get Sir Alex Ferguson or somebody. Yeah. You've got Ronaldo in your team, and he's fantastic. Yeah. But if he doesn't quite play according to plan A, much as you like him, you might have to say, you're on the bench, excuse the pun, on the bench, you're not playing.
Not this bench.
Not this bench. So it's the same sort of thing of taking a global view of everything. And you sit there and you've got a script. I mean, Eric's play has a history, and he's been gracious enough to ask me about certain aspects of it since it all began however many years ago. But there comes a stage where you're saying, what do I want to do with this? And it's very much, like sharing a vision. We're all talking about visions for our country. The director has to see the whole thing and imagining it evolving and getting the actors to buy into that vision, to be persuaded that it's actually going to work. Yeah. Because in More Fire, we have a story that is taking place in a slum rather like Kibera. And in Kibera, there are at least 1 million people. But how many actors have we got on stage? We have a cast of 10. And if, God forbid, as has happened, one of them is away or can't make it, it's reduced to 9. So you've got 9 people wishing to represent 1 million people. Now that already is the directorial challenge. You've seen the show. How did I go about this idea of 9 people equals many people?
Yeah. Which was my next point, John, because originally you were more than 20. You cut it down to 9 because of cost, blah, 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 travel, all that stuff.
Exactly.
And it worked because the various actors were playing various roles. The versatility was fantastic.
Right. That was the buy-in. There are 2 things that I wanted them to do. One is, there's always talk, Jeff, about audience participation. Now, everybody says to participate, the audience have got to sort of pull you out of the ground and say, Jeff, come and dance a jig like a bumblebee on stage, and then you're participating. But the audience also has to can participate by thinking. So what I try to present to them as a director is that, first of all, my point of departure is that we're imagining a huge place. It's all crowded, but we're imagining. The key word is imagination. So I'm saying, if you can imagine a gutter and lack of sewerage and overcrowdedness, then from that point onwards, you can imagine a watch. You can imagine a mobile phone. You can imagine everything. So all of a sudden, our production became very, very, very spare. And in New York in particular, we only dealt with black rectangular boxes, a series. We've sort of, because we didn't know what we wanted to expect there. So it had nothing to do with a wonderful set, because we said the audience is going to imagine everything. And the audience is going to imagine, if you're going to play this little trick, is that when you first see me wearing this coat, I'm somebody. When you next see me maybe wearing pink only, it means I become somebody else. Yeah. And they're in on the game. Yeah. So once they start playing, then you've got to be consistent. There has to be a consistency so that everything ties up. Because you can't say, well, 1 minute he did this and that represented a mobile phone, and the next minute he did this and that meant that he had something behind his ear, because that motion now represents mobile phone.
That's right.
So you're sitting at home trying to piece it together. Then you have you're the salesman to your cast. To your cast and saying, look folks, there are only 9 of you, but I want you to do something, Jeff, that you've never quite done before in your life. And actors are loath to appear silly. They want to be comfortable. So everybody's taking risks. And certainly this was a great step in my own creative life. This was a great challenge. Yeah. And I shall always look upon More Fire with great fondness.
Speaking of cast, John, obviously, you walked into this and the cast had already been put together.
Had been chosen.
Yes. What was it like molding these young minds? Because a lot of them are very, very young.
Right.
What was it like working with them?
Again, we go back to the keyword challenge. The idea, I always, whenever these interview type things, in my life, I've 9 to 5 for 25 odd years, I've been a school teacher. And a school teacher not on the elevated levels of academia and university, but elementary, high school. So you have this sort of tie-in, and my feeling is that we remain, or the best of us, remain children at heart. and therefore it wasn't a challenge to mold them as if they didn't have that talent there. The cast in Morfire is absolutely fantastic. It's brimming, chock-a-block, my cup runneth over sort of stuff with talent. The key word that again we could perhaps work on, Jeff, is the idea is that we have to arrive at a level of discipline, to hone yourself in for the big moment. Usain Bolt can run, but he knows he's got the fast twitch muscles, but he has to go through a certain routine, even as he's chatting with his friends and going, like this, when the big moment comes. And that for me, as an individual, is what always fascinates me about how you can harness people's energy so they can do the same thing, more or less, over and over again. And perhaps our actors here in Kenya, there's still a long way for us to go in terms of honing that discipline.
Yeah.
Talent is not in question.
Right. After the play, when the play is finished,
yes,
and the actresses are all coming on board and doing their bow,
yes,
and the audience gives you all a standing ovation,
right?
You as director,
right?
What does that tell you?
Well, to tell you the absolute truth, Jeff, to tell you the absolute truth, you feel good.
Why lie?
Yeah, I think so. You feel good.
Yes.
That's a one-line question.
Because I've appreciated what you've done. It's you directed this, and the audience has responded.
Right.
And I was there gala night.
Yeah, it's a measure of success. It's a measure of success that people are responding.
Yes.
A gentleman called John Fox, writing in the Nation, I believe, or maybe are we allowed to mention newspapers by name?
We don't discriminate.
In the Nation, saying this is the best thing that he's seen in the last 20 years that he's been here. Yeah. Those are wonderful accolades, and you shouldn't be cynical about it. But given who I am, I reckon we could still make it better still.
Which was where I was going from here, John.
Yes.
How far can you take Morfire?
Well, lots of deep and meaningful questions. We can take Morfire a long way in this particular country, but you go back to this whole idea of funding. I mean, we're tremendously lucky in having had a show which has had 2 corporate sponsors taking care of the big bills. And maybe through the success of Morfire, others will be encouraged to do the same, because the arts, the theatre, this myth that it's all sort of very populist and we all get together and show how talented we are deep within, to produce quality, there is a level of financial investment involved. Yeah. So we have aspirations for ourselves. Then Morfire is a quintessentially Kenyan. It's a Kenyan situation. Now, it obviously had a cell operation in New York because even American audiences understood it. Correct. And in the time that I was there, I saw a Korean production in Korean with sort of subtitles going across, which proved once again that art can transcend those boundaries. Yeah. You can understand a good story when you feel one. Yeah. Now, as to how far society is going to encourage us to take our story forward, Eric has already said that we're headed to Broadway in a couple of years' time. So that's what you aim for. Yes. If you don't get there, well, tough in a way. Yeah. But I don't think you should sit back sort of saying, keeping your goals a secret. We've stated our goals. We'll give it a lot of stick. And we think that we're good enough. There's at no point when I was in New York did I feel that we were giving a substandard product. Mm.
And when audiences leave, other than the standing ovation, John, what's one thing you want them to take home with?
Well, again, that's a bit of a trick question, and there's a sort of standard artistic answer to it. And that is, there has to be a certain humility. You take from it what you will. We have a story. It's played out in a slum. It deals with issues in our society, like corruption, the yearning for a better society, a more egalitarian society with more freedoms for everybody. This is a very seductive theme for Kenyans, particularly now when we're looking at harmonized draft constitutions. Yeah. So in the same way that when you read the harmonized draft constitution, if I ask the elders who, the experts rather, who formed it, what is the message that you want to take away from it? And that is, maybe you go away thinking that you want to be a better person, or is that too grandiose?
No, or a better country.
A better country. Because a better country is made of better people.
There you go.
So it's just that little bit of sugar in a salty sea.
Yeah. And finally, John, what's the E in John E. Sibi-Okumu?
That will have to wait for until perhaps the 10th time you invite me to the bench.
8 more times to go.
8 more times to go.
John, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Great musical. And good luck with the future. Hope you make it on Broadway.
Thank you.
We'll come watch it.
Thank you.
Take us with. John E. Sibi-Okumu. E will remain.
A secret.
Secret. Erastus?
No.
Ephantus?
No. Keep on guessing.
He's the director, Mo Fire. He's put it together. And I tell you, with the standing ovations he keeps getting every night, you know he's done his work. More than 4 decades in this business, John is giving back. This is what we mean when we talk about the future of Kenya. Mo Fire is about the future of Kenya. Don't even think of going away. We have plenty more. The cast of Mo Fire coming up on the bench. And we'll be right back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk. All this week, it's all about Mo Fire. And if you haven't watched it, go down to the Go Down Theatre and Industrial Area. This is one musical that you will take home with you and start thinking about the future of Kenya. And on the bench today, young man, architecture student. Imagine that. This is the only production he's ever been in. And he's the first person you see when this production starts. He's the narrator. His name is Prof in the musical, and he takes the audience through this slum, Kwamaji it's called, and he guides us through. It's incredible the role he plays because he's the standard setter. I guess being an architect helps in a way. That's right. Only 25 years old, Dan Aceda. Dan.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
or should I say Prof? What was it like playing this role, man? What was it like?
It's been a lot of fun. Learning how to act. I'm a singer before I'm an actor, and so learning just how to make that translation was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was difficult in the beginning trying to understand who this guy is, this Prof is.
Yeah.
But with a good director and great fellow actors, it becomes easy. It becomes easy, man. Yeah.
Now, Dan, you are the first person the audience sees. So there you are in New York City. The curtain goes up. Boom, you're on stage.
Yeah,
What's
man.
that like?
Man, I don't know. I mean, you look across to the audience and, they have these blank expressions. I mean, they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
They are, and I turned around because the play starts where we have our backs to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned around and I looked at them and I could tell, oh my goodness, these people have no clue what we're about to do to them. Some of them look a little scared, but it was, it was something else, an experience you can't forget.
Yeah.
You can't forget.
And then when the play ends, the standing ovation, because I was at the gala night here.
Yeah.
Day one, standing ovation. Does that tell you, you know what, we did our job?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. We did get that on the first night in New York as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no words to explain what you feel. I mean, it's amazing, especially because in New York we really didn't know. I think when we're doing the show in Kenya, we have some idea of how the audience is going to respond. In New York, we had no clue.
Yeah.
And to see them appreciate it was, I guess, big relief to everybody.
Yes.
First of all, which I don't understand, because I guess we just didn't get that we had a good show. So, so now I mean, we're loving it.
Yeah.
We're loving every minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the message, obviously, Dan, is getting to the audience. This standing ovation means people get the message.
Yeah, they do. It's amazing. Even in America, those guys actually did get it.
Yes.
And they laughed with us. I saw some cry with us in
New
York. Yeah, we saw some cry with us when things were thick.
Yeah.
And so we, it's a good play.
Yeah.
Eric did a good job in writing this thing. So it's translating well. And as an actor, as a performer, to be on stage, when you see people understand your story, understand what you're saying, and that's it right there, man.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your own little Grammy.
Taking it to the next level, Dan. Obviously, you know, Eric's wish, everyone's wish in this musical is to take it to Broadway.
Yeah.
Do you think it can make it?
I think it can. I think it's possible. I mean, why not? This is when we left New York, we were opening Fela. So I think Fela is musical on Fela Kuti's life.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's possible. Why not? Why not? Because if the Nigerians can do it, so why can't we? why can't we do it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe though we need to learn some things about doing shows on that level and doing shows for that long. Because Broadway, man, it's everything changes. Everything changes.
Yeah.
But we can learn that stuff,
Yes.
and then we go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't feel that it's too far out there. I think we can. Yeah.
And in the meantime, with the Kenyan audiences, what do you want them to take home with them once they see this? Once they see that slum situation, the lifestyles, the nuances, all that's going on in there, what do you want them to take at the end of the show?
You know, it's interesting that even in the show, that the message, I guess, that I would love to give it out is that, you know, the country we live in belongs to us. The situations that we are in belong to us. So ultimately, the only people who are going to fix these things is, you know, us. And so, in the story of Kwamaji, the people eventually then decide to make some things happen, and you have to make those decisions. And when I personally hope that the people who watch the show then realize that we really should own up to our own mistakes and be able to fix our own problems. No one else is ever going to do it for us. Yeah.
The responsibility for you as Prof in the musical.
Yeah.
If you start off badly or, you know, not 100%, you know, then the whole production, right?
Oh yeah, man.
So the onus is on you.
Oh yeah, man. This one night, I think in New York,
Yeah.
I was having a really bad day, and the words just wouldn't come out of my mouth, man. And you could tell because after you do the introduction of the show and everybody else is coming back, you can tell all the mistakes I made in the first 2 minutes, everybody else is making. And so I've sort of learned to try and just crank it up as much as I can because you're right, you do set the pace, and then everyone has to play by your rules.
Exactly.
And so if I'm having a bad day, yikes.
It's downhill.
This is a bad show. We're going to struggle the whole gig.
How does a 25-year-old balance a career in architecture and then this? Because, you know, can be time consuming, Dan.
Oh yeah, it can. I mean, I don't know. You just do it, man. My personal philosophy on life is usiogope. Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, this life is 70 years.
Yes.
If we are going to take by our religious views and say, okay, that's a prescription in 70 years.
Correct.
I'm going to cram as much stuff as I can into these 70 years before it runs out.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do as much as I can. Live this thing to the very end, take it to the very edge. Yeah.
You touched on the message coming out of this musical, Dan. At the end of the day, with the draft constitution, with all these issues we have in our country right now, is this the moment in time? Do you think there's change coming, especially coming from a musical like this? Does it give people hope that there can be change, that they can take collective charge of their destinies?
Yeah, I think the message in the musical is that of hope. If we don't say anything else, we hope to say that there is a chance, there's always an opportunity to do things better, to make things come out, you know, in a better way. And so even with the new constitution and how we're going to go back and forth with this, and we know how this pans out, we can't lose hope. Because if we do, I mean, then we're dead. So we can't accept that point. We can't accept that. We must find a way to push it through, find a way to keep believing in it, find a way to keep trying. I mean, even when things do get absolutely impossible, because even in the play, I mean, the champion, you know, dies. But we still have to keep going, man. If we don't, we might as well have all died with him.
Absolutely, that's the bottom line. And on the sidelines of the New York experience, I know you got to experience other parts of New York that really kind of, you know, amazed you.
Man, the entertainment scene is crazy. I think New York is like a huge hub for a lot of things, and one of them is entertainment. And people in the entertainment industry are working hard, man. There is no way around it. People are working hard. I saw people who are degree holders in music, master's degree holders in music and the arts, and they're playing in clubs for tips. And that's how they're taking it. And I spoke to some of them and just asked them, so what's the deal? They're like, no, you know what? This is how we're going to do it. And so we have to do it.
Yeah.
I don't see any other way for me to make my music work and for me to make my music pay for itself except by doing this.
And then others play down in the subways.
Others are playing in the subways,
Yes.
man. And they're really skilled. Honestly, some really good musicians in the subway, on street corners.
Right.
Some really good musicians. Guys who, if they came here, us guys would be hiding. Never be in the same space as that guy. But they're brilliant people and they're all trying to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe in Kenya, because we have a smaller fraternity of musicians, we don't feel that. But out there, guys are really trying to push it.
Yeah.
And no wonder that when you make it big in New York,
Yes.
you really do make it big.
It's true what they say.
Yeah. You really do make it big,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. But it made you appreciate this trade even more, didn't it?
Way much more. I also had an opportunity to speak to some Kenyans who are living there, Binyavanga or Enaina.
Yeah.
And I met this gentleman called Martin Kimani, who's a thinker, he's an intellectual. He's just been hired by the National Defense College at West Point, the American Army, to teach.
Wow.
And he's
Kenyan.
He's a Kenyan. And he said some very interesting things. He said, we here, and he said, and this is especially true for maybe those of us who are studying and those of us that are in the arts, commitment. Commit to it, give it everything, and then the kitchen sink, and make sure it's gonna work. And that's the difference. Because here we, at the back of our minds, are thinking, I want to eat, so I'm gonna cut. What's the shortest way for me to eat? Over there, the mindset is totally different. I don't mind not eating, but I'm gonna get this. And he's committed to it all the way.
Wow.
All the way, all the way, yeah.
Sure. Bottom line, this has been a great experience.
It's been absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure there is a way to, express it, but to be in a position where, in some ways, you're flying a flag for Kenya, for the country, and trying to say something about who we are was very humbling. It was a great experience. Everywhere we went, you understood even more what it means. Over here, we don't get what it means to be Kenyan, because everyone is Kenyan.
Correct.
Until you go out there and then you realize, oh my goodness, it's a whole big soup, and you need to create something unique. And being there as Kenyans, and being good, being really good, because those shows were full and those people were standing up after every show. And then being called Kenyans meant a lot. It meant a lot, man.
Congratulations, Dan. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Good luck with the architecture and also with the rest of this.
Asante.
Nice one.
Asante sana.
The prof has spoken. That's right. Being Kenyan out there, it's a moment of pride. He cannot even describe it because it was incredible. The standing ovations, the crowds that came to see Mo Fire. Don't take my word for it. Go and see it yourself at the Go Down Theatre in Industrial Area, Wednesday through Sunday. This musical will change your perspective, your outlook on life. This is what we talk about when we say it's all about the future of Kenya. People like Dan Aceda are setting the pace. And Mo Fire is on fire. What a guest, what a show, what a week it's turning out to be. All about the cast and crew of Mo Fire. Cannot find these kinds of guests anywhere else. Right here on the bench, on the award-winning station, K24. For as always, we are, even in Mo Fire, all Kenyan.
All the time.
All the time, man.
Capital Talk is recorded at the Fairview Hotel, the country hotel in town.